Hi everyone, this is Ray, or some of you might know me as Tiki with Ray, and today I am with my good friend Travis Bay.
Hello, everyone.
So a lot of you might know Travis from his awesome photographs that are in my blog. And I'll tell you what, man, some of the photographs you take are incredible. And they really put a good light on like a lot of the home bars that we went to. And I just want to say thank you about that. But what also Travis does is you're a carver.
I try when I have time. I try to get some carving done. Yes.
Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning. Like, how did you get into carving?
How did I get into carving?
Yeah.
Well, my dad used to carve when I was little.
Tikis.
No.
Okay.
Just regular little figures and things like that. And so it was actually in the wintertime something we did around the house was we'd get blocks of wood and he'd cut out shapes for us on his bandsaw at work and bring them home, and we'd sit and whittle them. And I hadn't done it in years.
This is when you lived in Kansas, right?
This is when I lived in Kansas. Yeah. I grew up in Leavenworth, Kansas.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I did it. And it was how I got back into it was probably somewhere in when I first started getting into tiki, so maybe 10 years ago now, in the 2000s, something like that. And I was working at a company called HGA at the time, which was an architecture design engineering firm. And as a printer, we would get all these files, but at the time, you would have to wait for all these files to load up for, a big architectural print job. To wait for them all to load up, and then you'd have to wait for them all to process. So although you had to be at your computer, you couldn't go away in case there was a problem, and so you're stuck there for 5-10 minutes at a time. So I started taking blocks of wood out of the model shop and sitting and whittling little figures while I waited for my print jobs to load.
Is this the first thing you've ever whittled?
These were the first things I'd whittled since I was, 14 years old. So I thought of these as bottle stoppers for like syrups and stuff. And once I started trying to make my own syrups and keeping an actual bar, I realized how impractical they were. So I may try to...
well, they look cool, but like...
repurpose these into something else, but these were the first little guys that I started carving.
No,
again, tiki.
So how did you carve these? Like, what would you use to carve this?
Little carving knife set. I
just
picked
literally
up off
carving knives.
Yeah. Well, I actually had some from my art school days for doing block printing. Yeah. So I went and dug those up and brought them into work, and so I would sit there and carve these little things. And
I want to ask you this. So, back when your dad was doing the carvings that he was doing, so what was he carving?
Cowboys.
Oh, okay, cowboys.
Little figures. He started off. My grandfather started carving first and got kind of my dad into it, and it was something they could do just in their chair at home. They'd just start and they'd get knives and all sorts of little nifty things.
So back then when you started doing the carving, what were some of the things you were carving before you started carving tikis?
I think I carved a bird. I carved a bulldog once.
Okay.
Just little things like that.
Yeah. Well, dude, this is great. So where did you go from here then?
I went from there. We got a bad storm. Of course, I started getting more and more into tiki.
Yeah.
And we got a bad storm, and a couple large branches fell out of our ash tree in the backyard.
Yeah.
And so, there was a giant log I had that I could, or a fairly decent sized log, bigger than these, obviously.
Yeah. How big are we talking? Are we talking like?
Well, I'm getting to that. It is the tiki you have in your bedroom right
now. Oh, really?
Now.
Was that the first large-scale one you did?
That was the first large-scale one I did, was the one that you have.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so all I had on that was a Sawzall for kind of roughing out, and
a Sawzall.
And 3 flat chisels, and my carving knives that I use to carve these. Wow. So that's kind of how that started. And yeah, I carved that out and finished it up, and it stayed in the house for a long time, and I enjoyed it and wanted to do more. And I actually had that particular tiki has a brother log somewhere that I was going to make a matching pair. But when we moved out to Washington from Minnesota, that log stayed there and I think got thrown in a fire pit by the people who
Could you
rented the
imagine
house.
that when you're moving, like you're filling up your like moving van or whatever like that, and you're just throwing in random pieces of logs? You're like, yeah, it kind of doesn't make any sense.
No, it didn't.
No, and I'll tell you what, man, I love that tiki. It's in my bedroom. It's in my tiki bedroom.
It's how we met.
That's how we met, actually. It's funny. You had an ad on Craigslist.
Yep.
And I didn't have the money at the time because I had to get paid. But I came up, and then we ended up just like shooting the shit for like
4 hours.
Yeah.
We sat around and talked.
We talked about tikis. We talked about all that other stuff. And I'm like, all right, this is a cool dude, you know. And then when I finally came back to buy the tiki, it was here, and you're like, do you want something to drink? I'm like, yeah.
I think we had Brooklyn Brothers Pizza and pogo sticks that night. So
yeah. So not only did it go from me just buying a tiki off you, but we became really, really good friends.
Yes.
Have you?
Absolutely.
When you made the transition from going from something to like this to something way bigger, is there a lot of differences in it, or is it literally just the same process?
It's essentially the same process but the thing you have going for you when you're working on something like this is a fixed, dried, fairly symmetrical, be it a block or a round, a fairly symmetrical piece of wood.
Yeah.
And you can cut it out and it's not going to be weird.
Yeah.
Now, this was the next one I did after yours, which was a piece of driftwood I picked up.
So this was after mine?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I picked up approximately the same time I did this most recent one I finished this week, which was this guy.
This says made in Taiwan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's where I was carving at the time, was Taiwan. I would fly out there just to carve and then fly back to, work the day
Thanks
job.
for taking the joke over the neck. Dude, that is awesome.
So
now, do you know which tiki god this would be?
I know it's a Marcasian style.
Yeah.
As is this. Zombies, sorry.
Yeah, let's move on to the big guy. So you literally just finished this guy.
Literally just finished this guy this week.
Wow.
And these were both driftwood, and they both, as with yours too, a log out of a tree or something like that has got some, what am I trying to say? Some uniqueness that you have to work around and work with.
You were working on this forever.
I was working on that forever because since it's not my profession, unfortunately, I work on things when I can. And typically when I do laundry, my workspaces have been typically in my laundry room. So I would go down there and work as much as I could on something till the laundry was done. And then life happens. And 2 weeks later, I should go do something more on that.
And every time I would come up, you'd always see like the progress. And then finally, I think you sent me a picture. You're like, I don't even think you said anything. You just sent me the picture. I'm like, oh, dude, is that the one you've been working on for like a long time? He's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, it looks great.
Well, and something...
You did a great job on this.
Thank you. Because it was driftwood.
Yeah.
I picked it up originally just as an experimental piece, and it floated around out here in Pigeon Creek Beach in Puget Sound for... I don't know how long. I thought it was a lot drier than it was when I hauled it off the beach, and it's about a quarter of the mile walk from the beach down a walking path to the parking area. So when I got this, it was probably several inches higher because I trimmed some off, and it was probably that much bigger around.
Yeah.
And when all the moisture dried out of it, it really shrank. And which, because it's driftwood, it did some cool cracking things, which I had to work with I had to start using as part of the design, as opposed to get real angry about, because, you don't want to see the thing you've been working on really crack. But in this case, as a piece of driftwood,
it kind of adds to it.
It does. It kind of adds to it. And so I wanted the finish to, the finished work I did to really make it look old and worn, since there was the cracking in here that I had to work with. So after I finished the main carving, I took my torch to it and really torch it up and darken the wood a lot. And then I took a wire brush and I just brushed the heck out of it, which really wore down these areas, and made them look even older, especially around the ear things. And I torched it twice, just to...
It looks so good, Travis. Now this guy's for sale.
This guy will be for sale.
It's going to be for
sale. Take some pictures and memorialize it for my own, because once it goes away, it goes away. So
and let's talk turkey. So you said you were looking to get about $300 for it.
Yeah, part of that is due to the condition.
So it's definitely worth it.
The fact that it did shrink really crazy, and so
if you want to get a handmade piece from Travis, $300, you can have this guy. It's so cool.
I'm really happy the way it turned out. Everything kind of worked and didn't work at the same time, but wound up working and not working. I don't know, it's weird.
You know what, Travis? I'm gonna buy it. Seriously.
What the frick? Right here now?
Yeah, I'm buying it. It's coming home with me.
Okay.
All right. Aloha, mahalo, and all that other crap. Thanks, Travis.
Cheers, Ray.
Cheers.
Enjoy.
Hey gang, this is Tiki with Ray, and I just want to say thank you very much for checking out my video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want to see more episodes, click on the subscribe button. And if you liked the video, give it a like. That would mean a lot to me. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave a comment in the comment section below.